Water. Want some water or a piece of cake? Okay, one. Hey, would you like some water? I also have birthday cake up there. Okay, you're welcome.
It's birthday.
It's my birthday. We had the cake wrapped up and I threw it in my freezer and it's still good, but it came up in the freshest real estate, my freezer. I do. So I told, isn't it still good? Tastes just like,
fresh.
yeah, it does, yeah. Did you do it for your party?
We did, but you know, they'll do a little.
Hi, Gary.
of that. And they do it.
Yeah.
You think gross.
Go ahead, ask me.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Works well.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. As some of you may know, Kata got, so she is working right now, so I'm here kind of filling in for her. So anyway, we'll introduce the board members, of which there are two of us here, Tim and I. Oh, far out, Liz is here too, so there's three of us. Well, you're kind of president. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, there's three of us here that meet at the board meetings, and so we didn't even have a quorum, so we didn't even hold a board meeting this morning. And then as far as the tech team, we've got Harry, and I think he's the only one here from the tech teams. And okay, so tech lab update. The only thing I got to do on the tech lab is there is a new user guide, lab user guide. It is now on, there's an icon on the desktop for that. And also the book in there has been updated. So it does cover the Apple a little bit more. And there's a few other things that have changed. So you might want to take a look at that and see. And if there's anything you want to add to that, go ahead and send the club an email and we'll see if we can accomplish that. And then the last thing I've got is elections in May. We're going to be electing vice president and treasurer. No,
Yes.
treasurer. Yeah, vice president and treasurer next month. One of the things we're looking at is anybody who wants to help fill in one of those positions, let us know, and we'll get your name on the ballot so we can have those elections next month. That's about all I've got, so we'll go ahead and introduce Tony. He's here.
Miscellaneous things that have been donated to the club, your printer cartridges, if you have something at home. There's also some birthday cake from Cotta's birthday. Feel free, there's some water as well. And my little treasurer monthly report, our balance this month was $2,122. And we have 83 paid memberships. We have 131 household members, and we have 6 club/committee membership. and one more thing, Barney.
You can leave the meeting.
There's not a lot of people here, but, when you're printing in the tech lab, please, could you make sure you print in black and white? If it's something you don't need in color, because I found this packet of 40 pages that were printed in color, and then they were even left there, and it wasn't anything that needed to be in color. So just be aware, because some of the printers come up as the default in color, and you can go in there and check it and change it to black and white. And because printer ink is very expensive, especially color.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, so if there's nothing else, okay, somebody can come up and talk to us about passwords.
All right, let me test this microphone. Test, test. We got some audio. Welcome to everybody, and thank you for having me. We are talking today, the main subject is passwords, password safety, and password managers. Oh, I shared the screen. Oh, come on. Hang on 1 second. Yeah, I forgot to share my screen. That's this button here. Right, one more second here. What is this? Sorry, I'm just trying to get out of this weird deal here. Well, so my screen doesn't look like that. Hang on. Let's see. Display settings, duplicate slideshow. There we go. Oh, well, okay, so now this still isn't match. Oh, there we go. It's catching up. Just a little bit behind. We're caught up now. All right, wonderful. Let me get my mouse. All right, so password safety, password managers, all that stuff. It's important to be safe about your passwords because people get access to all your goodies. You don't want that, right? All right, so the first thing I have is a question for all of you. Does anybody know what Forrest Gump's email password was? Nobody? Let me give you a clue. It's 1, Forrest 1. So his obviously got leaked, as you can see. We're going to talk to you guys about how to not make your password get leaked and things like that here today. All right, so the topics we're going to be covering are the 4 most common ways your password gets compromised. The strategies to avoid being compromised. Next, what are password managers? How do password managers work? What is two-factor or multi-factor authentication? And which password managers are right for you? So these are the main things we're going to cover. So the first thing we'll talk about are the 4 most common, remind my words here, way that passwords are compromised. The number 1 thing is phishing, or what they call vishing, which is just voice phishing. So those are when the things we kind of talked about in my last scam presentation. So like your emails, your text messages, where they seem like, oh, this is Amazon, your account is closed. Please click this link to reactivate your account. You click the link, it brings you to a page that looks like Amazon. You put in your password, and the next thing you know, somebody else has your password. They're logging in and buying all the goodies for themselves. You know, so this is just an example of how people acquire that password from you. They have a fake link, or they might even do a phone call and say, hey, this is the, you know, IRS. I need you to give me your Microsoft login so I can, you know, get you your money back. And it just doesn't make much sense, but they get some people like that. So just be aware. The next one is malware. So these are different programs or applications that will, look legitimate, but then collect your details as you're going through the programs and things along those and send them off to the hackers. The next one is brute force. So brute force isn't as common, but they'll get access to your password by just using all of these common passwords that they might have, or maybe they'll have been previous leaks where they got your password in it, and they'll just send every password they can to the system. And they'll stuff the system until eventually one of those passwords works. And so that's one of the options. And then the last one is just guessing. And they can guess passwords based on, let's say you did one of those Facebook things where they said, oh, what was your high school mascot? And what year did you graduate? And what was your home street? And what was your pet's name? And those might be common things people use in passwords, or they use in your security questions. And so they will use those common answers or be able to potentially guess your password if you've given them too much information. So there's strategies to avoid being compromised. And one of the big things I talked about in my last scam presentation was the SLAM method. So that's being aware of who the sender of emails or text is, checking the links. If there's links in it, that's a little suspicious. Go directly to the provider. So if it's Amazon, go directly to Amazon's website. Don't click the link in an email or a text message or anything like that. Then look for attachments. Even if it looks like it's a PDF attachment. There was recently a YouTube channel that I watched who received what they thought was a brand offer for a sponsorship deal. And that they clicked on the PDF, said, we don't want to do this deal, and then just left. What they didn't know is that PDF then deployed a program on their computer to capture their cookies in their browser and send them their login details of a secure session to their YouTube channel. And they then started hosting a live stream of a fake thing where people could send in money. And so, I don't know if anybody was duped in this particular case, but it's a common thing. So just be aware of those attachments. And then the last one is to check that message that actually comes in. The message, if it's like, oh, we need this for that thing, and it's just broken English, it just doesn't quite make much sense. There's a high chance that that could be a scammer or a hacker as well. The next one is to avoid logging into things like your bank account or your Amazon account when you're on public Wi-Fi, something that doesn't have that lock symbol on it, or even if it's at the local coffee shop, somebody else could be on that Wi-Fi and capture your keystrokes from their computer and then use that to log into your information as well. So try to avoid using those types of Wi-Fis. If you're going to be going to your bank, don't do it on a public Wi-Fi. Next one is set up that two-factor authentication whenever possible. We're going to talk more about two-factor authentication a little bit later, but that's where, in addition to your password, you need something else. You either need an email or a text message or a specific code. It's like whenever you're logging into your bank or something like that, and they say, all right, we're going to send you a code to make sure it's you, and they're going to text it to your phone number because nobody else hopefully has your phone number, and then they will use that to then get access to your account. So that if you have that code being texted to you, nobody else's phone is going to get that text message. That's that second factor in addition to your password. And then the next thing is to create unique and strong passwords to avoid that guessing. So you want something super unique. This is where password managers can come in handy. They'll develop passwords for you. And those passwords can be like A, star, tilde, slash, Q, P, something that you would never memorize, but the program can memorize for you, and then it won't be easy to guess. And then utilize a password manager is an option that you can use. It's very, very helpful, but this day and age, I know that I probably have over 150 logins across all the different applications that I use. So it's important if you can utilize a password manager. I use a couple, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, and then the last thing is to check if your information has been compromised. There's a website that's haveibeenpwned.com. And pwned stands for power owned, or really, really owned, if you will, to where what you do is you go to this website and you put in your email address, and they will let you know if it's ever been out on the dark web, like a hack that happened that involved your email address. So if they say, oh, well, PlayStation was hacked on this particular day and your information may have been leaked as a part of that. It's out in the dark web. They can find what your login details are. So you can go to this and see if someone already is able to acquire your password. It happened to me at one point from a leak that happened, and I did one of those stupid things, and I used the same password on everything. And so I had to go to every service and reset my password and make sure that it was all set, because it had happened. I was involved in a leak at some company where somebody hacked into their system and got access to my details. So it's always something good to check out. Have I been pwned.com? I'll send that link to contact everybody so that you guys can have that if you want to. All right. I got another real world password example for you. So I was helping my dad troubleshoot a computer problem. And I said, I need to know what your password is so I can get past the screen. And he said, Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, Pluto, Huey, Gooey, Louie, Des Moines. And I said, why is that your password? And he said, well, when I was setting it up, it said I needed at least 8 characters and a capital. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what password managers actually are. Password manager is a tool in the form of an app, a computer program, or even a browser extension that will then assist you on that particular device that you have it installed on. So if you have it on your phone, they have them available for all the services. You can get on a Macintosh computer, PC, you can get on an Apple phone, an Android, and you can cover all your bases in one particular service if you want to. So the things that password managers can do, number one is that they store your password in an encrypted database. So that means even if someone gets access to their platform, they're only going to see a string of numbers and not know what it means. They won't have the actual password. They'll have the encrypted data. And encrypted, we'll talk a little bit right after this, exactly how that works. The second thing is they help you generate strong, unique passwords for each of your accounts. So let's say you're logging in for the first time, making a new account somewhere. If you give your password manager access, it can say, oh, hey, you're creating a new Yahoo account. Would you like to use this password? And it'll be that thing I suggested. It'll be like a really weird string of characters. And you can use that if you want to, because the password manager will memorize it for you and input it for you later. So that's something that you can do. But that's totally up to you. You don't have to. I tend to not. And I don't know why. It's just a habit thing. I prefer to know what the passwords are, but it's also getting increasingly difficult with as many applications as I have. And then the third thing is it can give you access to all of your passwords with just one master password. So if you memorize just one password that you don't ever use anywhere else, the only place you use that particular password, then you don't have to memorize any of your other passwords because they're all saved inside your password manager. So that's how a password manager can be super useful, especially if you're struggling with any sort of memory issues or anything like that. All right, so how password managers work is largely with encryption. Does anybody know what this device here is? Does this look familiar to anybody? This is the Enigma machine that the Nazis used in World War II to, communicate with each other. And every single day, they would send out a different combination to say, all right, today you push these pegs down, and when you type a normal message, it will put out some random characters, and somebody else has to have an Enigma machine with that same things pressed down, and then you will know what the actual message is for today. So that's what the Nazis used. On that particular device, we had to figure out how to crack that device. That was when the very first computer or modern day computer was invented. And it was, because the Enigma machine had 150 million possible combinations. You couldn't just figure it out like you could like some of the word problems in the newspaper. They give you a key of like 3 letters and you can figure out the rest. It wasn't that simple. There was 150 million different combinations. So that's when we had to come up with a computer and they actually cracked it. There's a really good movie on it. I can't remember what it's called, but it's about Alan Turing. I think it's called Enigma. That might be what the movie's called, I believe. But it's really, really good and very, very interesting. But today's password managers use a protocol called AES 256. And that combination, this was the Enigma machine, 150 million. Password managers of today have 115, 792, 089, 237, 316, 195, 423, this many combinations. So it's just a hair over 115 quadrillion, whatever that word is. That's how many combinations you'd have to go through. So just, next page. So how secure is that? Well, if you had every atom on Earth was a computer, and that particular computer could try 10 billion keys a second, it would still take 2.84 billion years to solve and crack that specific code. So it's pretty darn secure in terms of if they're just trying to actually, if they get the encrypted data that the password manager has and they're trying to figure out what your password is, this is how long it would take them to actually figure out what that encrypted thing is, unless they have more keys. That's where that master password is very, very important. So let's talk a little bit about two-factor authentication. So let's say someone gets access to your master key or your master password for your password manager. Well, this is where two-factor authentication is important. Because let's say that my master password is my old password that I had deleted off of everything, I'll tell you guys, was my high school mascot and the year I graduated. It was Tiger 007. That was my password for everything. If somebody got access to that password and they were trying to go to my Amazon or my Google or my Apple account, all of those accounts right now have two-factor authentication. So it's going to require that I get texted a code. So even if someone has that and they're trying to use it on the other side of the world, it's going to say, okay, well, give me the code that I just emailed you or I just texted you. And they won't be able to do that unless they've also hacked my email or something along those lines. But this is just an added level of defense. So any service that offers two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, you want to try and use that as much as possible. Even if your master password is leaked or compromised, this can save you. So the different, what you get is a token. That's what that little string of numbers is called, is a token. And you can get that from an authenticator app on your phone. There's ones put out by Microsoft called Microsoft Authenticator. There's one by Google called Google Authenticator. And what you do is you tell those apps that you need to get specific codes for, this program, and they'll help you with getting that all set up. Or you can get text or emails, like I said, and it looks kind of like this. This one's important because this one's pretty prevalent right now for people who are trying to sell things on Facebook or things like that. Those people then say, hey, give me your phone number. I need to make sure you're a real person. And then they'll say, okay, I sent you a code. Tell me what that code is. But that code is them trying to log into your Google with your phone number. Because Google has multiple sign-in options. You can sign in with your phone number. You can sign in with your email address. You have different options. So they'll punch in your phone number. They'll say, hey, I just sent you a code. Can you make sure that can you prove to me you're a real person? And this code will come up. And some people will just send it on to that person and say, here's the code, just so you know I'm a real person. And then that person, boom, they have access to your Google account now. And they can log into your account and then send themselves gift cards and things like that so they can buy whatever they want in the Google universe. So these are very, very important things to look out for. If you ever get sent one of these codes, do not ever send it to anyone. The companies that provide them to you won't ask for it, other than the email page you're signing in, like the page you're signing into. Use it. But if someone's on the phone with you, or someone texts you, or someone emails you and says, I sent you a code, send it to me, do not ever forward that code to anybody. If that code is for you, right where you're at right now, if anybody else will never need it. Not the company, nobody's going to ask you for it unless you're the person who asked for it. And then the last thing is called like a dongle. They have these little devices. You just push this button and it generates a random 6-digit number. These are usually more for company related things. Your employer would probably provide them for you. So you guys wouldn't necessarily want to acquire one of these as easily. The app or the text option is probably much better. But this is just another example of when you can get one of those tokens for your multi-factor authentication. So which password managers are best for you? Well, it's a personal preference. I have a few screenshots to show you what the ones on the market look like. And we can kind of get an idea as to what they look like, and you can look out there, but they all basically operate the same. All of the primary ones, the three major ones that have the most customers right now, offer both a free option and a premium option. And just as an example of free features, so this is the most popular one currently, maybe changing soon, is called LastPass. So it's the last password you ever have to know. That's their company's idea. You memorize your master password, you don't ever have to memorize another password again, right? So this is what their free features are. So they offer you a secure password vault. So that's the place that stores all your passwords and it's encrypted. You have access to one device type or access on one device type. Then you have one-to-one sharing. So if you need to send yourself a code, you can get it on another machine to be able to log in on that machine. Then you can save and fill passwords. That's a really good benefit of these is you don't even have to type it in. It'll just pop in for you if you have the app installed there. We have a password generator. That's the ones that generate those really unique codes. You have secure, they offer you secure notes. You can add notes in the system without even saving passwords in. It's something you can do for free. You have a security dashboard and score to where it's going to tell you, hey, you typed your password in here. It's maybe not be as secure as you think it is. You might want to think about changing it. It just has the system locally, not on a broader scale, has an idea of what your password is. It doesn't get sent to the company. It just stays on your machine. The company only gets the encrypted data also. So you get this dashboard, and I'll show you what some of those dashboards look like. I can even show you my dashboard. But they tell you, this password's not so good. This password you used twice. Maybe don't do that. You know, those kinds of things. Then dark web monitoring, which is that have I been pwned thing. They're going to check those same areas to see if your password's been compromised. Basic support, so like if you just have questions. Multi-factor authentication, so in the free version, you can get multi-factor authentication through these apps. And then there's this one says LastPass Authenticator, but that's probably their specific authenticator. And then the premium features is one-to-many sharing. That's probably more important for like a group like this. Let's say that the tech club has a bunch of passwords. They could then send one specific resident, here's the password for this, and they can have it be like a one-time token even to say this will work this one time when I send it to you, and then it won't work again, kind of thing. But only one person would have to manage the passwords, and then they can dole them out to whoever they want to. You have emergency access, which I don't necessarily know what that means. Advanced multi-factor options, priority tech support, LastPass. So a lot of this isn't all that great to me. I don't know if I'd ever pay for a premium one. I don't currently. But then they also have 1 gigabyte of encrypted file storage, which isn't that big, but to have your files encrypted again, so like nobody can even access what's on it, it might be important, but 1 gig is going to disappear pretty quickly depending on what you have there. All right, so the options, the top ones are called LastPass, 1Password, and Dashlane. Those are the top 3 contenders on the market right now. That being said, all of our other devices are starting to get them like built in. So I know that Apple has it built in, Android has it built in, like the Microsoft Edge browser and the Chrome browser have it built into the browsers. You don't have to get one of these services. You can just use the one that's already defaulted, and that's what I currently do. I just use the default ones that are on the programs on the devices that I already have. Because I'm too lazy to bother with setting up a new service. So, all right. So this is an example of what LastPass looks like. It's got these big icons so you can be familiar. Oh, I know what this website is. Good. And you can kind of click on them. If you're auto-filling them, maybe this doesn't matter as much to you, but you can see that they have both a phone app, they have a thing for use on your computer, and they have a Apple Watch application. So like you could just pull up your password here if you're logging in on a computer you don't usually use. So that's kind of nice. But that being said, was LastPass recently hacked? The answer is yes, it was. So in December of 2022, they disclosed, I don't know when the hack happened, it was sometime in that prior year, but they disclosed to all their customers that there had been a recent breach. There's actually 2 breaches, and they kind of had to do with, there was a senior level programmer in their company who was working from his home computer, and also on his home computer, he had another application installed for maybe it's legitimate, maybe it's not, free movies and things like this, And so some nefarious actors went through that application, got onto his machine, and were able to gather all kinds of things that, only senior level people have access to from their company, but they took all kinds of things. And they said the things that were accessed from the backups on his machine was system configuration data, API secrets third-party integration secrets, and encrypted and unencrypted LastPass customer data. So they gathered the encrypted data, which isn't any good unless they have your password, which is really good, but they have it at least. But they also got unencrypted customer data. So they're probably talking about your address, your name, your primary username for LastPass. Those kinds of things are unencrypted. And so they then had all the contact details probably for all their customers. And I know it was millions of customers who were potentially affected. So something to consider when you're thinking about using a password manager. Is it beneficial to have access to it all? Yes. Is there a chance that they actually were able to access any of your passwords? Probably not. That's the really good news with that encryption. Because it's like, even if they gather everything, they now have a string of numbers they don't really know what to do with unless they can get your password. So that's why it's really important. If you end up using a password manager, that you don't ever reuse that master password anywhere else. Because if one of those companies gets hacked, then they have that password, then they'll get into your LastPass, and then they can access all of your passwords. That would kind of be the Armageddon of password, grabbing, if you will. So something to consider there. This is what the system looks like for 1Password. And again, I don't use any of these, so I can't get into the nitty gritties. But if you guys are interested in using a password manager, which I don't want to discourage, I use the ones that are built into my system. But if you wanted to, this is what this would look like. So you can see kind of the companies that you have your passwords for. And then when you click on it, you can see your username, your password. Oh, it gives them a rating. This is a fantastic secure password. You can generate a one-time password that'll work one time on that website. It tells you the website, tells you the last time you updated the password on here. So these are kind of important things to have. This is the 1Password. So that will look nice to you. And then this is Dashlane. So this is one of those dashboards. Dashlane, they're big into their dashboard. So they can say, oh, you have 27 total accounts. You have 2 weak passwords. Maybe think about changing those. You have 0 compromised passwords. So they're checking those dark websites where people are purchasing and selling data, and none of your passwords are on there. Good news. And then you have no reused passwords. So that would be really good. This is just examples of things that password managers can tell you also, in addition to all the other stuff they do. And then you can see they have the different websites listed here, their logins. Is it reused? What's the safety level? You can click a button and they can easily bring you to that website and change your password. So that's also helpful. So you can just go to one place and reset all your passwords if there's any concerns there. All right. So my personal preference, I kind of already mentioned to you guys, I use built-in applications. And I took a little screen recording last night while I was working on this at 3:11. Don't judge me. I took this is a little screenshot. So for those of you who don't have an iPhone, as soon as you click on the settings button on your iPhone, this is what the screen looks like. You can see all the different options. And sometimes it's really hard to find what you're looking for in the settings. So what I always do is if you pull the screen down, there's a little search bar. And that's why I started recording here. So I can show you guys how easy it is to find these type of details. So you just start typing in, once you pull down, I just type in passwords. That's what it's called on iPhone. You click on passwords. If you saw that real quick there, I have a password for it, but if you have your own personal device and you allow it to access it, it can do the same biometric unlock thing you have for your phone. So if you have a fingerprint, if it scans your face, if you have a PIN code, you can get into your passwords with that. And then you can see just here, these are all of my logins I have that start with an A. So there's American Airlines, there's Ancestry.com, there's Amazon.com, and these things are all saved in here. You can see just how many passwords I have and how difficult it would be to memorize all of them if they're all unique, and just how many of them exist. Like I'm still scrolling and I'm only to the M's in the alphabet here. So it's a lot of passwords, a lot of usernames, and it'll save them all in here for you. So that's my personal preference. These are also encrypted. It's through Apple. This is Apple's service on my computer right here. Let me see if I can share another screen for you guys. Stop this sharing for just a second. And this one. Right. And then we're going to go to, So this is just the actual, this is the Microsoft Edge browser. I'm a huge Microsoft fan, so I use Edge. A lot of people don't like it, but you know, whatever. I like the improvements they've made recently. So you can see all of your passwords in that you save in Edge, which is also all encrypted. The key thing, you can select if you want to upload to the cloud and work on all of your Edge browsers on all of your devices, or if you just want to save locally. So all these passwords that I have saved are not saved somewhere where somebody could hack into it unless they're hacking into this specific device right here. And that's the same thing on my iPhone. They're saved on that device. So even Apple doesn't have direct access to them. I don't let it go out to their servers. It just stays on my device. And that's an option that you can select with all of these password managers. But I just want to show you an example of the one that's built into Edge. So what you can see, let me see if I can zoom in on this page a little bit here or not. Yeah. So you can see right, well, yeah. So you have a whole bunch of different options. So I have here where it says offer to save offer to save password. So if I type in a password it hasn't seen before, it's going to offer to save that password. And that's where a little thing will pop up and you can say, yes, save this password. No, don't save this one. The next one is automatically save passwords. So it won't even ask you. It's just going to save them anyhow. And there's autofill passwords. And then you can see here where it says the different health of my passwords. And this one right here, oh, look at that. Here I am. This is a reused password and it's being reused across 5 sites and apps. So I'm not as good as I'd like to be about making sure that none of my passwords leak over. But this application right here is just telling me, I don't even have to figure out which ones it is. It's telling me this one's reused. So you can click on it and you can say you want to change it or whatever that might be. I have a few on here that are, I think, in the 1 dots I saw last night. Let me see. Oh, they're all mostly 2s. Yeah, this one's 5, that one. So this one is reused on 2 different sites. So maybe think about changing that one up. And then there's one I wanted to show you guys that I will be changing shortly after this meeting. But I just wanted to show you an example. So this is unfortunately probably my Costco ID number. But if you go to Costco and you create a password, this is just an example of what I found where I let the system generate it. There's no way I'd ever memorize this. But if you guys click here, here's an example. This is going to scan my face to make sure it's me. I'm going to say okay. And then you can see what my password is. It's ARDUJUF9TILDWY3SW. There's no way I would ever memorize it. But the system is allowed to generate that for you and take the guesswork out of it. So now that's something that somebody would probably never guess because it's just a random string of numbers. So there's no guessing that's going to get caused. And now of course, my password's leaked and anybody who's watching this on Zoom and anybody who's in the room now knows what it is or could access it or we're watching this on demand. So I'm going to be changing this shortly after this meeting here. But it's just an option of where somebody could get into something. But you can click these little eyeballs and it will let you see what the password is. Once you've looked at the password, I think there's also a option over here. You can just straight copy the password. So let's say you're going to one of these websites, it will most of the time going to be auto-filling, but let's say I'm logging in on my phone and my password's saved on my computer only. So I'll go on my computer and I will either view the password or I'll copy the password and text it to myself or whatever that might be and get myself some access. Let's jump back to that slideshow real quick. I think we only have 1 slide left. Just going to share this again. Share this one. Screen. Seconds. Duplicate slideshow. There it is. It's going to catch up. There we go. All right, so my preference was those built-ins. I showed you that. All right, last thing. Whoops. Here we go, last thing. I have a closing question for you guys, and you're welcome to ask me as many questions as you have. So my question to you is, why can't you use beef stew as a password? Well, as you know, this is what beef stew looks like. Well, you can't use beef stew because it's not stroganoff. Stroganoff, stroganoff. So that's all the stuff I came prepared for, but if you guys have any questions about password managers or want to see anything more, I'd be happy to show you guys. If you have any questions, yeah, go ahead.
I've been using the Apple keychain for a while.
Yep.
A lot of times when I go to a website, they want me to create an account,
Hmm,
and they will usually give me the option to pick a strong password.
right,
A lot of times they don't offer me that option. They
Mhm.
want me to pick the password.
right.
Is there any way I can make sure that they offer me the option? I would rather have them pick the strong password rather than me.
Right, that's a really, really good question, because I actually was trying to do an example of that last night when I was working on the slideshow. I went to Yahoo and I tried to just make a new account. And most of the time when you're typing in that password, I think what it comes down to is if the system's recognizing that you are creating a new account and creating a new password. And I don't know if there's a way around it, unfortunately. There probably is. But I don't know what that way is, unfortunately. I have to look it up and get you some more details. But yes, I think what you can do is you can, let's say you just make the account, and then if you go to the keychain or whatever that might be, and then you can manually input the website that it's for, and then you can say, create new password, and it will walk you through creating that more secure password, but you might just have to do it after you already have that account. But I was trying to do that as an example yesterday, because that's where the Edge browser was doing that for me for several things. And I didn't find anything last night that was allowing me to have that strong password. So I unfortunately have that same type of question, but it should be doable one way or another. You might just have to take that extra step of creating the account and then going to your keychain or whatever it is and saying, I want to create a new password, and then it should prompt you for them to create it for you. Sure.
They offer a strong password, but they usually don't. That's
Oh, okay.
a-
Oh, sure.
That's like,
Yeah.
like, girls say,
Mhm. Yeah.
they're not, they don't.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't make it, that's the way, like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really about the program that's running on the Apple device has to recognize that that's the task you're doing, and not all websites are going to trigger it the same way. And that's where the trouble's going. Yeah.
I think that's.
Who is it that's offering you these strong passwords? Is it the website or is it Apple?
So it's not Apple directly. Their local program on your machine has been programmed to know when it needs a password, and they have another version of encryption that it's like a random string of numbers somewhere that says if you logged in at this time and at this location and these things, it will trigger your system to make a random string of numbers. And it's as random as they can make it, but your machine is the thing that's creating and suggesting that password to you based on the programming that they gave it over time. But nobody would be able to replicate that directly in Apple. It's just your machine knows that it needs to make one, and your local machine makes that password. Yeah.
Explain how you use Password Manager to get to, a site. How do you jump from one to the other? All your passwords are in a password manager. Then you want to go to your bank account, or you want to go to whatever that account may be.
Sure.
How do you jump to that?
So realistically, let's see, so typically with most password managers, if you have them set up and configured appropriately as long as they're set up on the same device that you're using to log in, then it should either, if you have the option to select if you want it to autofill, that's one thing. So you don't even have to do anything. You don't have to go You don't have to go from the password to the website. You just go straight to the website and it'll say, hey, LastPass has a password for this. Do you want to use it? And you can just use it. So it should prompt you once you've set up the password manager. And if it's on that same device that you're logging in on, it'll recognize that it's on that website. If it doesn't, then you'll have to, kind of close the browser, go to the application, and then you can do that thing where I showed you, you kind of copy the password and then go back over it.
So if you're in, so you don't need to go to the password manager.
Right.
Just the one time.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, and you have a couple options with password managers. You can set it up to say, hey, suggest new passwords for me and things like that. So when you are logging into a website, it's gonna say, hey, do you want LastPass or whomever to save this password? And then you just say yes or no. And if you say yes, it'll save it. And then the next time you go there, it'll let you know that it has been saved. If you just want to go through now, let's say you have them all written out on your desk, you could go to one of these password managers and just type them all in. You could say, this is the website. It says what password. You can manually enter them all. And then when you go to that website, it should either prompt you or you'll know that it's saved there. So you'll just have to pull it up yourself if it's not automatically popping up.
And basically Apple and Android would be the same way.
Yeah, yeah. So Apple and Android, their own built-in one is going to be near identical. And other than having the option to get those premium additional things and maybe having customer support specifically for your passwords and like dedicated to that. I personally don't, this is just a personal preference, but I don't place a lot of value in those third-party password managers. This is a good example of LastPass getting hacked. I mean, Microsoft can get hacked, Apple can get hacked, they can all get hacked. But the good news is that all of them are also encrypting that data. So, and the key thing is with like LastPass, they don't save or have access to anyone's master password, even encrypted. They don't even have it. It doesn't save, it doesn't forward to them. It stays on, it only like uses on your device to log you in. That's the only place that you can use those master passwords. So your data is very secure on them. But yeah, Apple and Google, as far as I'm aware, and Microsoft Edge, more or less, they're all the same. It's just a matter of how you prefer it to be laid out. And like the one that I have on Edge is just fine. The one I have on my phone is just fine. And some of them, like some of my passwords are on my phone, but not on my computer. Some are on my computer, but not on my phone. But because in my case, they're two different companies, you can't easily transfer them over or anything like that. But they're easily saved. Yeah.
Getting back to Apple keychain,
Mhm.
how good do you think that is? How secure do you think that is?
Oh, so it's gonna use that same encryption, the 115 quadrillion or whatever that was. So in terms of them actually, as long as you don't leak, so the key thing there is they need your Apple password, like your Apple overall password is what's gonna secure that. And then Apple's really good about having two-factor authentication too. So if you have another Apple device, it'll say, hey, go to your other iPhone or go to your watch, there's a code on there. And it just displays it on there. It doesn't actually text it or anything that could be intercepted. It just sends it to another one of your devices. If you only have one Apple device, then they'll use your email or your phone number to send that login extension to you. But you're going to need that two-factor authentication. I don't even think Apple lets you disable two-factor authentication. You have to have it when you have an Apple device. Mhm. Right. Right. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And all of those codes that you get are typically only good for 10 minutes or less. A lot of them, it's 60 seconds. So there's no sense, if you ever get one of those codes, don't ever write it down and save it somewhere. So it's not gonna be good for you in 60 seconds to 10 minutes. It's gonna be gone. It's in the ether, it doesn't exist anymore. So just know that if they ever send you one of those 6-digit codes, you don't have to memorize it or write it down anywhere, it's gone. You're never gonna need it. They'll send you a new one if you need one in the future. Any other questions? Anybody hungry for some beef stew or stroganoff? I know I am. All right. Well, I love to come by here, so if you guys ever, have any security tech questions and things like that, I'm not too far away. I'm just at the watermark right there around the corner. I'm right behind the front desk where my friend Peggy used to be. Where were you there for 4 years, Peggy? Yeah. So She's just retired recently from working again. So we miss her a lot, but. But yes, I will be back, I'm sure, at some point. So if you guys want to save up any other, security type questions, feel free to save those up and let me know, and I'll be happy to figure out what I can do for you. All right?
Thanks, Tony.
Yep, we got it.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, that's all we've got for today. If there are no other questions, we'll go ahead and adjourn.
We need to